be an animal. Come hear the animals. Talking animals. Talking animals. It walks like an animal. Talks like an animal. Must be an animal. Come hear the animals. Talking animals. Talking animals.
Good morning. This is Talking Animals on WMNF. I'm Duncan Strauss, and my guest today will be Glenn Hatchell, returning for the 17th installment of Ask the Trainer. That means that as of this morning, we're approaching 17 instances over five years now, I guess, of inviting listeners to call in with questions for Glenn about their dogs or their cats' behavior. Questions about other animals are welcome too. And yes, we're going to stop counting episodes after today. If you've well, maybe we won't. It just seems nutty to say 17th. I just realized, but I guess we can keep going. But the main thing is we've been doing this for 5 years, and people really find it helpful. And so we'll explain how it works in just one sec. So if you've heard previous editions of As a Trainer, which again we try to present every 2 to 3 months, you'll recall that Glenn served as the Behavior and Enrichment Manager at the Humane Society of Tampa Bay. He's retired from that position. He's also a certified professional dog trainer, a veteran accomplished dog trainer and behaviorist, as well as, of course, as a former WMNF programmer. So during these Ask the Trainer shows, Glenn fields several calls and emails seeking to answer listener questions about their animal's behavior and or provide guidance on training or how to otherwise address that particular issue. So this morning, we again invite listeners to call in at 813-239-9663 with questions for Glenn or questions. Of course, also can be submitted by email at dj@wmnf.org or via text 813-433-0885. Incidentally, as I've mentioned a few times before, we have learned over the years of doing this that phone calls tend to be most effective just because that enables Glenn to ask the caller follow-up questions more precisely, kind of assessing the situation and better calibrating his recommended solution. Still, for listeners unable to call or just prefer to write in, we'll also incorporate questions submitted by email, again, dj@wmnf.org, or via text 813-433-0885. So feel free to call now and or email now. Well, Glenn and I are going to chat for a few minutes. But as always, if you do call in, just hang tight. It'll go quickly on hold, and you might be on hold for a while, especially if Glenn's helping another caller or listener with the questions. So just hang tight. But what we also want to encourage people to do is not to wait too long, because sometimes we get a big flurry at the end of the show, and then we don't have time to take all the folks who are seeking Glenn's help. So again, 813-239-9663. Email dj@wmnf.org. or text 813-433-0885. So let's welcome officially now Glenn Hatchell back to Talking Animals. Hello, Glenn.
Hello, Duncan. It's good to
I guess I still missed the wrong mic.
There we go. How's that?
There we go.
I hear it now. Good morning.
He moved on us. You're in a different location.
Good morning at the moment. If you're listening on the archives, it
could be
welcome
anytime
to Talking Animals.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
Thanks for
17.
Yeah,
that's pretty amazing. Do you remember what was the highlight of your when you were 17 years old? Do you remember? Right off the bat, anything pop to mind?
Well, illicit stuff certainly. That comes to mind immediately, and of course, music and all the 17-year-old stuff. Defying authority and getting in trouble and not doing his schoolwork and usual thing. How about you?
Well, my highlight of thinking of it when I was 17 was seeing David Bowie on the Ziggy Stardust tour.
Oh, wow.
So that will always be will always be.
Even subsequent years, it's hard to top that.
I mean, there were some good things. I graduated from high school that year, too, but it didn't matter. I saw David Bowie on Ziggy Stardust tour.
Sure.
So that was still to this day. But
wow.
I wish I remembered more of it, but I was 17. I hadn't been to a lot of concerts at that point,
Well, those are notable ones to add to the collection.
So.
Cool. Well, welcome back, Glenn. And we were just chatting a little bit before we went on air that we always try to have some little conversational thing or some point that you're trying to highlight that sometimes we return to over the course of the show, sometimes we don't, depending on our time. But it's just sort of something to kind of ponder and put something into context. So I think you had said something about the bad parts of gambling can actually be what you want to do with your dog, given all the talk about gambling these days. I just feel like that's super timely and interesting and kind of a provocative statement. So can you kind of explain, maybe you want to rephrase it better than I did, but...
Well, that's part of why I think it's been, 4 or 5 months I've been trying to spin this, or I've been spinning this around in my head, thinking of how to be able to talk about it. And it's just no position on gambling, because I'm personally not a gambler. I've never had enough discretionary income to be a gambler. And while I have a lot of addictive aspects of my personality, losing money is not one of them that I get any reward from. So I don't go down that path. But so that just first, this has nothing to do with gambling. But what it does have to do with the fact that it has infiltrated our lives in every aspect, and you can't get away from it anymore. And every ad that comes on with gambling, there is a speed talker at the end who goes through the numbers to call for gambling addiction in about 17 different states, or I'm just picking out numbers at this moment. But the reason is that, and I think a lot of you may have this awareness, is that sometimes you win and that just makes you so excited that you want that feeling again. And so you put more money down. And for some people, it becomes something that they can't control. Now, it's easy in some ways to think, or I shouldn't say easier, it's easier to think of a physical addiction, whether it is cigarettes or something like that, that you have a physical bit. In this case, at the beginning, it is an addiction to that mental feeling. A lot of people say that's why they go, well, so I'm not going to go that path. And for some people, though, that feeling is so strong, they want it so much that they will bet way over their capabilities. And that's why there are so many ads at the end of it. Now, the thing with variable reinforcement, and I am going to... I thought I had it right there. So the idea, or I shouldn't say the idea, you don't know when the treat's going to come. If you're if you're a gambler, for example, you don't know when that reward's going to come.
Right.
If you're a dog, though, you don't know when that treat's going to come. Now, and so we're going to start spinning this more towards the dog aspect, because what is happening here is that variable reinforcement. So the gambler, and I think this is probably pretty typical, you make your first couple of bets and you may win something. And that's what they're hoping for there, is that you get hooked in. And be like, oh, immediate win. Yeah. Look at what you've got. So you'll keep putting it back in. Well, you can also see everything that the sports books are advertising now. So they're not running at a negative, I don't believe.
Yeah, I think they're doing okay.
Yeah, I think the house has always won. I don't think that's ever changed.
Just on a larger scale now, I think, with all the gambling that's widened out. Yeah.
Yep. But what happens is that the reward comes enough that the behavior keeps occurring. Now, that is exactly what we want to have happen with an animal. So I'll work through a current dog named Millie, who I talked about last time we were here.
We love Millie.
That's right. Yes, we do. And Millie has learned very quickly, like almost all dogs do, with sit. That was very easy to learn. The challenge there then was taking Millie out into public places to where she learned if things were excited or loud, her default reaction should be to sit. Now, at the beginning, every time she would sit outside, just about, she would get a reward, typically a food reward. That was her big motivator. It usually wasn't any big, elaborate reward, but a pepperoni or something, like that, a little piece of that. Just enough to where she got a reward for it, a reinforcement. Now, if she had been now there are multiple things that could be used. It was easy to use that. After a while, she began to sit very quickly and would start looking in that anticipation of, okay, I did it. Where's my reward?
Yeah, we had a deal.
That's right. Well, this is when you want to start changing that reward system, because you don't want to always have to give her a treat every time she sits, because you're going to be doing this all the time. So what we started doing over time, or I should say Kelly started doing over time then, is as she got better and better with her sits, and that could be responding quicker, sitting in that perfect position, perfect parallel position. Those were the times she started getting the rewards, started getting a treat. So Millie never knew when she was going to get the reward, but she was getting it enough that it's like, well, let me try it again. Let me try it again.
Yeah, this could work this time.
That's right.
Yeah.
And there is a book that, as you can tell, I go to this one a lot.
I'll try not to say dog-eared, but I am tempted. Yeah.
No, it's just got a lot of stickers. Well, there's probably some dog ears on it. Decoding Your Dog is the name of this book. And in there, they talk about Nina, a Cairn Terrier. And so here's an example of variable ratio. And that's what we're talking about here, is that a variable reward. You just never know when that reward's going to come. And Nina was a Cairn Terrier and was taught to jump in the car to request for a treat. She lived to 16 and would still jump in the car when asked, even though eventually she only got a treat about every 14th time when she jumped in. So in this case, this dog, just as a very specific example there, over time is like, well, I might get a treat this time, but I'll go ahead and hop in. Now, the advantage of that is she's also hopping in a car, and assuming that she likes car rides, there's an additional bonus that's going on.
There's a treat of a different kind in there.
That's right. But the idea behind the good aspect and why we want to use it with dogs is because since dogs are masters of routine and will do things over and over and over, wanting that reward, is they just don't know when that next win will come, or that win. That's a good way to look at it. That next win is going to come. And what I like to think about, a statement that I've made a lot, is typically we want our dogs to do nothing for about 95% of the time. Just wait till we want them to we're going to do something else.
Wait for further instructions.
Exactly. So a lot of it, I think, too, that kind of fits with the always doing it over and over, waiting for the reward, because they do wait on us all day long, every day, all day.
Sure, they were going to do something cool now.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, you're getting up, you're putting on your shoes, we're going for a walk.
Right.
Oh, we're just going in the backyard.
We're
going to the backyard.
You're just getting the mail? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But there's also ways to think about, another way to think about is from our perspective, mowing the grass. I hate mowing the grass, but I love the way it looks and smells after it gets mowed. Now, I don't have a yard. I don't have to mow the grass, but I can remember when I did at one point and did that. But it took forever for me to finally do it because the reward wasn't worth all of the effort that went into it. And I was at a time at that point where I could have somebody else do it for me. But so it's also, what's it worth? But part of the issue that happens with gambling is that people will continue, because gambling is a cash, and it's just laying it out, and all of a sudden there is no more, and
now what?
That's right. Everything's gone. Yeah, everything's gone. So that's. But back to the dog aspect. There is. And another book that is not quite as dog-eared, because I've taken a few of her classes, is How to Behave So Your Dog Behaves. And this is by Dr. Sophia Yin.
Is she from UC Davis? That sounds super familiar.
Correct. and low stress handling, training, basically, that's still used today.
Yeah.
Yes, a tremendous amount of anything from Sophia Yin is worth following. YIN.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So in here, and just 4 examples here of talking about variable reinforcement. So this is sometimes get it, but might not always. So at the dog park, most dogs don't come consistently when their owners call. Sometimes owners call 5 to 10 times in a row with no success. Why do these owners continue to let Lassie off leash or bother to calling her to come? Well, the answer is because sometimes she does come when called. Lassie, the dog, has the owner on a variable ratio of reinforcement. The dog knows. Sorry, I had that backwards there. The owner knows that if I keep doing this, sometimes the dog will come back to me. So,
playing the percentages.
That's right.
Yeah.
But that's a perfect example to where we can be so deep into the forest that we miss the fact that the dog's trained us more than we've trained the dog.
Yeah.
Another example of that coming up from me, my house. So there is, here we go. Many human couples don't. I don't
so
like
maybe
that
I'll
one.
take a quick second to identify people who might have been tuning in and just remind them that they can participate if they'd like.
Perfect.
So this is Ask the Trainer. The trainer, of course, being Glenn Hatchell. That's who you're listening to now on Talking Animals on WMNF. If you have a question about your dog or your cat's behavior, excuse me, or maybe a training issue, anything that's been kind of concerning you around the house with one or more of your animals, Glenn is welcoming those questions right now at 813-239-9663. By email at dj@wmnf.org or via text at 813-433-0885. And again, if you might have missed this at the beginning of the show, we always try to remind people that if you do call in, you'll probably be put on hold, and it might be a moment or two before we pick up the call because if Glenn's helping someone or making a point, we can't immediately grab the call, but we'll do it as soon as we can. And please don't wait till the end of the show because a lot of people miss out and they waited a little too long to make their call or place their email. So again, it's 813-239-9663, WMNF.org, DJ at WMNF.org for email, or via text 813-433-0885. So we do have one email question, but let's get back to what you were saying, Glenn, and then we'll roll that email question into things and hopefully hear from some other folks as well.
All right. So here is another example from the book, Why Do Some People Love Sports So Much? Besides the element of competition, sports are fun because you never know how many plays it will take to get a touchdown, number of strokes to finish a golf hole, or how many points to win a basketball game. The outcome is unpredictable, and the reinforcement is on a variable schedule. Now, another example of that from my household regarding cats is what we'll talk about after we
I think we
take a couple of
couple
of questions.
Okay, let's do that. Hi, you're on Talking Animals. It's Ask the Trainer with Glenn Hatchell.
Hello?
Hello, it's you. Go ahead, please.
All right, I got a question. What do you do with a dog that bites? I mean, I recently, 3 weeks ago, I got this dog from a friend, and he got rid of him because he bit him. He bit him twice. He bit his son 3 times. I took the dog. I got a big yard. I figured, But I was just laying there, petting the dog, 6 o'clock in the morning, and there was no treats. There was no toys or anything. And he just, I was petting him for about half an hour, rubbing on him, and got up to his nose. His nose was crinkled up. And I was like, what's wrong, buddy? I didn't get Buddy out. He snipped me, took my fingertips off.
Wow.
Is there anything... I get him back. The guy I got him from took him back. I mean, it was a golden retriever, 1.5 years old. And the guy had him for about a year. And, I don't know. I'm just trying to see if there's anything that got any ideas of how that works or gets fixed, or what do you do with it?
Well, my first thought is that if he's bitten that much, it's become a learned behavior and the dog's a high risk. So, I would. Yeah, that's a tough decision, but the dogs
Does that mean
the
it's
dogs
like
are risk.
too tough to overcome, Glenn? Or?
Yeah. Well, I don't know because it could be medical. But if the dog's a year and a half, they've had it that long. The dog has not. Most likely, I'm guessing the dog has bitten consistently. All of these bites didn't happen in the last month. It's just my guess. The dog's a risk. So that's, to people, and that's an issue. That's a problem.
Is there anything you could do?
The only person that I can think of is a veterinary behaviorist. And there you can search online for veterinary behaviorists in Florida. There's less than a handful, but there are a couple of veterinary behaviorists in Florida. And the reason why a veterinary behaviorist is because they can actually prescribe the specific medicine based on the assessments that you do. But it also depends on whether they would handle an aggression case, because not everybody will handle an aggression case, but most veterinary behaviorists will, because they are they're in my mind, the pinnacle of the veterinary behavior profession in the animal world, because they've got, the degrees in both and have, earned the
uniquely equipped probably to try to handle it, right? Yeah.
So they give them medicine, give them drugs to make them not bite. I don't get that. There's probably
it's not any one thing, because most likely the dog's already learned certain things, like if you touch his nose, he's going to bite you. If, maybe he doesn't like his nose touched, maybe that's one of the ways that, the bites have happened in the past. So, this is deep and complex, and the fact that he's bitten 3 and the fact that one is a child, it kind of spreads across the fact of he's pretty indiscriminate about who he will do that to.
Yeah,
Yep. So it's a tough situation, but
I seen the dog last week. He did this like 3 weeks ago. He took my fingertips off in hospital and everything. I seen him last week, and the dog just jumping all over me like he loves me to death. I held my hand out and I showed him. I said, "Look what you did." And he put his head down like he knows he did something, but he don't know. It was kind of I still like the dog, but I ain't keeping him. I can't keep the dog like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sounds too unpredictable and tough situation.
Yeah.
So. Behavioral. What'd you call that?
Veterinary behaviorist.
Okay.
Give that a try. That might be sounds like the last resort if I'm reading a Glenn Wright on this. But thanks for your call. Good luck with that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So again, this is Talking Animals. We're doing an edition of Ask the Trainer, and the trainer behaviorist being Glenn Hatchell, of course. And if you have a question about your dog or cat's behavior, or maybe a training issue of some kind, Glenn is fielding those questions right now at 813-239-9663. You can email dj@wmnf.org or text 813-433-0885. And one email question came in brief, but it says, male pit bull question. It says, my pit bull is not, quote unquote, snipped. Any recommendations aside from that, ... treatment, in quotes. So I'm not quite sure what the last part of that means, but any input generally, I guess, on this male pit bull that's not snipped?
Well, yeah, I don't know if the question's about getting them snipped, or will that change behaviors. It's from most of the stuff that I've read, it is true that after a dog has been neutered, his testosterone level reduces, but there are some behaviors that some may think, or in some cases, may be reduced, but anecdotally, I've never noticed much difference, and I think in general, I've never read anything that indicates significant behavior changes because of a dog being neutered. Now, if there's recommendations on where to go, then there are some low-cost spay and neuter options in the Tampa Bay area. And again, you can search for those.
If the listener wants to write back in and say, were they raising that question because they were hoping there'd be a change in behavior, or is there a behavior issue, or anything further about the question about SNP, then I'm sure Glenn would be happy to respond to that in more detail. So again, we're at 813-239-9663 for Ask the Trainer with Glenn Hatchell. And again, you can also email dj@wmnf.org with your question or concern about your animal, or it could be dog, could be cat. We have occasionally we do other animals too. And any sort of behavioral or training issue, we're happy to address. And again, you can also text those at 813-433-0885. So Glenn, back to where we were, I think, on the variable ratio. And,
that's right. On the thing that makes it dangerous for people with addictive personalities. So, and there are certain things. Well, I'm not going to go off into my personal issues. So, talking about again how often, if your dog or cat does something, how often do they get rewarded for it, reinforced for it, get that win? How often is it a win? Since we'll kind of keep it in that gambling terminology, since we seem to have, since I've seemed to have kept us on that. So that's the key thing there, or not the key thing, but I mean that's the idea of when is it going to happen again? When is it going to happen again? So with the variable reinforcement, they never know, but if it happens frequently enough, that's what keeps you engaged. That's what keeps you coming back and trying again. Now, with dogs, as the example we heard about the Cairn Terrier, dogs will do really good along that line. Cats are a little bit more of a challenge, but still the same with cats of the idea of being that delayed win. So sometimes at the very beginning, you want that win to happen frequently, but then as you do it more and more, you want less wins. Now, cat
has less patience for that, probably.
Yeah. So there was, and again, I will say this, although I feel very guilty about it now. My cats were indoor-outdoor cats. One of them now is not because he's blind, so he's inside now, but it still applies to him. And as outdoor cats, as indoor-outdoor cats, we wanted to make sure that we saw them twice a day. So every morning at 6 o'clock, every evening at 6 o'clock, they got wet food. That was the one time they got wet food. Okay. And boom, they were on a perfect cycle.
That's exactly what I need.
They were coming in and get it. And usually they would, they would eat and they'd usually go right back out. So it wasn't like they came in and hung around for a while or anything like that.
This doesn't mean I like you. I'm just coming in for the wet food.
Pretty much. Yeah. But I know that's, it could be in some cases, but not in this case.
Yeah.
So what has happened now, and what I've realized, and I shouldn't say now, but as they spend more time inside, one of them inside all the time now, every time they're on the counter, guess what happens? They get some wet food. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, they've turned around and they've trained us.
Train the
owners.
Train
That's
the trainer.
right.
Yeah.
And we're on a very high ratio of wins versus attempts, because for about every 10 times they hop up on the counter, 8 times there's some food that appears.
Wow. Again, playing the percentages. It's good gambling.
Yeah. So, but it's still, is that something I want to change? No, because that's a behavior that is good with. Yeah. But if it was jumping on a 3-year-old kid, then that becomes different problem to deal with if sometimes the dog gets to jump on the 3-year-old kid, but never knows when. So if the dog's not taught to wait, then he'll always try to jump on the 3-year-old kid. So, and then all of a sudden, now how are we going to back this little issue out? And that's how variable reinforcement plays into dog training. And I have another story. I think we have a.
We do have a caller. We want to get
All right.
involved in the
right.
show, and then we'll come back to that other
That's
story.
right.
Hi, you're on Talking Animals. It's Ask the Trainer with Glenn Hatchell on WMNF. Go ahead. It's you, please. Hi, it's you, please. Go ahead.
Hello there.
Hi.
Hey, this is Bob in Sun City Center. How are you?
Good, Bob. How about you?
Well, not bad. We have this wonderful 13-inch beagle that we adopted through the Beagle Rescue of Tampa Bay, which is a wonderful organization.
Yes, it is.
And we've had her since July. And I call her my personal trainer because, boy, does she take you for a walk. You got to follow that nose, and you go from a jog to a dead stop to a walk and so forth. Great. I've lost 13 pounds since July, so
Wow.
something's working right. Anyhow, the question is, she just turned 2 years old, and she's doing things differently. She's finding new places to sleep, and she's not always responding gleefully when you come in the house. You occasionally get a tail wag, but usually just open her eyes and say, yeah, whatever, glad you're home. And she's, as I say, she's acting differently. And it occurred to me, she's acting like a teenager. Do 2-year-old dogs exhibit adolescent behavior?
Well, you could do parallels and such, but no, dog behavior is dog behavior versus human behavior. But the one thing I would think of, and I mean, my first thought always goes to the vet check and it's more what you were saying about the lack of response sometimes, or the when you come in. The moving and finding different places, that could just still be part of getting acclimated. Since you said she's been with you since July, even though that is a long period of time, it may be just she's decided, hey, I'll go sleep over here for a while. I wouldn't necessarily think anything about that unless there's something she's doing.
No, her appetite's still good. She's still eating the same stuff and appears to be healthy. She doesn't make a lot of noise.
Yeah. So,
which is, I think, for a beagle, every now and then she'll put her head back and howl.
Yeah.
But,
now, I don't have, again, I'll always say I don't have any medical training, but some of the things you're saying, or a couple of things you've said there, my first thought is her hearing. So if she's not always reacting when you're coming in, does she just not?
Well, her hearing appears to be very acute.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she can, when we're out and about, she can hear things that we won't hear for 5 minutes.
And and maybe it's the certain sounds, but every dog's different. Every dog's an individual.
Yeah.
That's about the best way I could, based on what you said. If everything else looks fine, then she may just be a little phase she's going through. And has this been going on for a while or recent?
No, this is recent. Why I say, she just turned 2 years old, which is effectively a teenager for a dog, isn't it?
Yeah, depending on there's some bits with breeds and such, but yes. But another thing that popped to mind is if this is how she reacts to all the pollen and allergies and things along that line.
No.
If there's something in the environment that's just got her a little, at the moment. It's hard to say. Of course, that would be a vet call, if they could even figure that out. But
yeah. Well, okay. So basically, you can't blame adolescents for this.
No. No, we celebrate adolescence. We don't blame adolescents.
Absolutely. I'm still encountering my adolescence at my age. So. Listen, guys, thank you so much.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. Thanks for the call.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, I think we have another call. We'll take another quick call here and then get into some other things as well. Hi, you're on Talking Animals. It's Ask the Trainer with Glenn Hatchell. You have a question or a comment for Glenn? Hello. I can hear you there.
Oh,
Hi, did you have a question or a comment for Glenn?
Yeah, I have two questions. I have a 5-year-old Chow pit mix. He's very prey-driven. Is there any way to train this out of her?
That is one of the biggest challenges to train a dog out of because it's such a natural behavior.
Yeah.
One of the things that you could do to at least let her, now this is taking a different approach rather than training it out of her. If you were able to find something that allowed her to satisfy that need, so to speak, and what comes to mind immediately are lure courses. A lure, Lure, and it basically is a typically like a big triangular course that's set up with a with 3 motors and a triangle bit and a some type of a wire that runs, and there's a an item, usually something that looks like a rabbit that's tied off to it, and basically the dog chases it. And if you do searches, there are a number of companies that set up, or at least were in the past, and I think with the summer coming up maybe, that will set up at different times for like a day or an afternoon for the lure course. So you can search those online. So that would be one way to go after it, is that he could at least be able to satisfy it some. But then as far as changing the behavior to reduce it, that's there's a lot would be involved in that. And there would have to be a lot more would have to be understood to know exactly the way to go after it.
Okay. So I have a pretty big yard and she chases squirrels. Wouldn't that be the same as the lure?
I'm going to say no because, well, it would be different. Let me put it that way. The thing about a lure course being controlled is that she could, if you chose, she could actually get the toy at the end, for example, where I doubt, does she ever get the squirrels in the backyard?
Occasionally.
Well, there's your variable reinforcement. That's part of it, is because sometimes she gets them, so it's fun and chasing, and so she's going to keep doing it because sometimes she gets them. So the way to do that then is to basically take that behavior away from her. So let me ask you a question then. If you're out on it, do you take her out for walks?
Yeah.
If she sees a cat out on a walk, does she lunge and try to go for it?
Cats and squirrels, yes. So, and when other dogs pass us, so I make her sit and stay and reinforce it if she's being good. Okay,
well, there you go. That's what you can do in the backyard with her, with the squirrels, to practice. So it'll get better on the walk.
All right. Now, this might make it difficult. I have a lot of fruit trees, and I want her to kill the squirrels, but not my chicken.
Okay. This is becoming a bit...
Yeah. Yep. It's out of my league. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would just go with what Glenn has advised thus far, and thank you so much for your call.
That's a major challenge you have there. So good luck with it.
One more question. This is not related at all.
Well, we might ask you to call back then, because we're going to move on right now. But we spent a good hunk of time on the chow. So feel free to call back or email in, and we'll try to get to you before the end of the show.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, this is Talking Animals, where we're doing an edition of Ask the Trainer. And again, the trainer is Glenn Hatchell. So I'm just going to fill you in on some things coming up next week on Talking Animals. But in the meantime, I want to remind you to ask your question about a dog, cat, other animal, and a question about behavior, training, anything related to that. Call 813-239-9663. You can submit your question by email at dj@wmnf.org or also via text 813-433-0885. And Next week on Talking Animals, my guest will be Laura Hagen, Managing Director of Wildlife at Humane World for Animals. That was formerly called the Humane Society of the United States. She's going to address a disturbing circumstance regarding circus elephants, especially for those who may have thought Ringling Brothers having removed elephants from their shows 10 years ago meant the end of elephants performing in circuses. When in reality, it turns out there are, I guess, by current count, 14 elderly elephants still forced on the road to tour with other circuses. So we'll discuss that situation and, more to the point, what we can do about it next Wednesday, May 20th, on Talking Animals here on WNF. Right now, though, let's get back to Ask the Trainer on Talking Animals on WNF. Hi, you're on Talking Animals. Ask the Trainer with Glenn Hatchell.
Hi, it's Cindy again.
Okay, that was fast. Okay.
Yeah. I have one more question about my chow. She has recall. She comes. When she's outside, she'll come. But inside, if I call her, she'll look at me and then walk out of the room.
I would, well, could be several things in that, but outside and when you call her, does she always come to you?
Not always. No. Most
Okay.
of the time.
And okay, so again, it comes back to but inside, does she come to you sometimes, or does she always walk to the other room?
Unless if I have food, she'll come. But other than that, she'll walk to the other room.
Yeah. Well, the idea is to just get her to realize that, hey, maybe sometimes mom does have something that I want. And maybe just block access to the other room if that's possible. Yeah, several ways you could handle that, I think.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for the call. Have a good day, Cindy.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. So we've heard back from the
Yes.
the pit bull emailer emailed back and said with an update, my pit bull is humping our smaller female dog and even sometimes family and guests. I don't want to have him snipped if it's not needed. Is there a solution for this? So that's kind of a more detailed version of the initial.
Yeah. Nobody is going to say that, oh, yeah, that'll take care of the humping. And if they do, then, because you don't know for sure. That is the one thing that, well, let me answer it this way. If the humping is sexually motivated, then it is possible that the snip could reduce that because of the reduction in testosterone. But just because the testosterone is lowered doesn't mean that that's a behavior that he's going to stop doing because of that. So he may still be in his mind, this is just something that I do. So that's why it's like, no, you can't really say for sure that's going to happen. I think the biggest thing that I heard in that is that he's mounting the female. And I'm more concerned is the female spayed because there are enough dogs in the shelters right now. But, just thinking of, well, if not, then there's going to be some that are going to come along that are going to need some medical care and multiple things. So that's probably who I would go for. But as far as the humping other people, there's, again, multiple reasons for that. One of the best ways to stop it is put a leash on him, and when he's inside, and basically not let him do it. And it's not go up to the people, go humping, and then pull the dog away. It's not let the dog get up there to do it to begin with. So that's how I have approached those typically. But it can be, as always, there can be a lot of other layers involved in that.
All right. Well, hopefully that's helpful, and we'll move on to a caller now. Hi, you're on Talking Animals. Ask the Trainer with Glenn Hatchell on WMNF. Hello, it's you. Hello, go ahead, please.
Yes, I have a 4-month-old Maltipoo, and he's very vocal, and I try to get after him when he barks at everything. and I just can't seem to get him to stop. I've tried a clicker. I've tried all kinds of things. You walk in the door, he barks. You can be standing in the room, he barks.
Well, at 4 months old, there's probably my first thought is going to be some attention.
Yeah.
There is, and when you say you've tried the clicker, nothing is, not anything, especially since you're talking about it being at a pretty regular bit of where he's barking, is don't give up, because nothing's going to work immediately. And he's also learning everything. Everything every day is brand new. And that probably is playing into that. I would go ahead and start with basic obedience of teaching. And if you can get into a group class somewhere, would be good, because that's going to give other stimulations, other things going on, especially at that age. That would be good for him. But it'll also start getting him focusing on you for different, looking to see what's going to happen next. And for some dogs, especially as he ages, that focus could in itself reduce the barking some. Now, all of those are just possibilities. There's no way to know for sure.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Good luck.
Thanks for your call.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, so we're in the waning moments of our edition of Ask the Trainer here on Talking Animals on WMNF. Again, we still have time to take at least one or two more questions if people call in at 813-239-9663. Email DJ at WMNF.org or text 813-433-0885. Along the way, we've also been talking about variable reinforcement and about sort of the parallels to gambling that go on in dog training in terms of, did you win that hand? And did you get that treat? And et cetera. So I don't know if you want to pick anything else up where we kind of jumped into some calls a moment ago.
Yes. So I was finishing there and had wrapped up with talking about how my cats it had gone from, basically with my cats, even when they were outside, I was doing that bit of every time they came in, they got food. So it was that high ratio of I'm playing, I'm winning, I'm playing, I'm winning. So that was good because that was exactly the behavior I wanted for them. But with the dog, for example, on sit, I want her to sit because it's something she does all the time and just a basic behavior. Kind of like, I think it's Chris Rock who says, you don't get extra credit for doing what you're supposed to do. And that is kind of, the philosophy I use with something like that. But things like this can backfire in different ways. So I was working with a deaf dog one time, very active, energetic, deaf dog, probably about 2 or 3 years old. And with this, of course, trying to do a vocal cue is difficult because the dog can't hear you. So you clap hands or something and, part of trying to get that attention. So with this dog, I decided one of the things we were trying just to see what all would motivate is that I used a, now I'm drawing the blank of, man, my age is showing here. The cat thing that we used, the laser pointer. Good grief.
There you go.
I kept wanting to see pen, but I knew that wasn't right. The laser pointer. And I thought, okay, so we could use the laser pointer to get the dog to this being the cue to look back at you. And we were starting in the house easily along this line. So where it backfired was that we showed the laser pointer on the carpet, and the dog looked at it and started digging towards the laser pointer. and got focused on the laser pointer focused to the point of where the laser pointer had been, that we couldn't get him away from it.
Wow.
So while this doesn't necessarily tie to variable reinforcement, it is an example of the reward system being completely out of whack.
Right, going askew kind of, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what happens with humans, basically, with and gambling, and why there's so many of the ads at the end of it, because you just get to that point and it's completely lose control of, it becomes obsessive.
Yeah.
But I have just found it so fascinating as gambling we can't get away from it anymore.
Yeah.
How the flip side of the good side of variable reinforcement is exactly what we do to maintain a behavior long term with a dog.
Yeah.
Keep playing, you're going to win.
Right.
Keep playing.
Got the house's money now.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think we may or may not have one more call here before we probably start to wrap things up here. Hi, you're on Talking Animals with Ask the Trainer with Glenn Hatchell.
Oh, you know what? I've got a medical question and not a training question, but I'll change it to a training question.
Okay.
8-year-old dogs, I've had them each for 5 years, and they are pretty good at training with reward and repetition, etc. But when I leave the house, they bark. And so I'm trying to figure out a way, since I cannot be with them, to get them to stop barking. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If I go in the house and ask them to stop barking, they'll start barking. And if I'm...
Then you got to leave the house again.
Yeah.
Right.
If I'm in the house and they start barking at something outside, I ask them to stop, and they do stop. So, but that's the problem. When I leave the house, they just bark and bark and bark. And I don't think it lasts very long, because my neighbors tell me it doesn't last very long. But and when I come home, it's the same thing. So is it... what can I do?
Well, coming home, they're excited. So let's just go ahead and think about it that way. They're excited that you're home, and that is one of the things too. That I will go out in the front and walk into the door again, and my dogs would be barking, and literally it would have been 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So, I'm stumped with that one as well, or stuck with that one as well. But as far as leaving, a couple of things you can try. Or a couple of things you could do. And this, again, is the idea of to keep them occupied.
Okay.
Is one, leave some noise on for them. And it doesn't matter whether it's music or, I have some friends who have the Goose channel on. I have other friends who have a hip hop station on. Others, I can remember somebody who used to work for me used to put reruns of the Golden Girls on. Okay. So the idea is to have some kind of a noise that's going on. So it at least is giving a little bit of that diffuse there. But the other thing could be, or a second thing would be, to give them something that's going to keep them engaged for the first 10 minutes or so after you leave.
We have just about a minute more.
Okay, so it could be like a frozen Kong, some kind of a frozen treat, something like that.
Yes, something they can eat that's going to take a couple minutes.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if it was a serious problem, then what you could do is, next thing I would say is try a thunder shirt. I have found the thunder shirts can be effective to reduce some barking. Again, in some dogs, not all, but so I hope those helps. Hope that helps.
It did. Thank you.
Thanks for your call. Appreciate it. All right, we have just about reached the end of today's edition of Talking Animals with Ask the Trainer with Glenn Hatchell. Thanks once again to Glenn for all your help and wisdom and helping out these folks who called in and emailed in. I appreciate it. Coming up on WNF, it's The Conversation, the great show hosted by Myron Nunez and Joe King Carter. After that, it's The Scoop, WNF's brief news recap. Then we should be back into music programming with Sally in for Sam today. Holding forth from 1 to 3 on Instant Music, followed by Nancy C., hosting the Wednesday Traffic Jam from 3 to 6 p.m. And more great programming happening after that, of course, on 88.5 WMNF. So again, just one quick reminder. Next week, May 20th, I'll be joined by Laura Hagen, talking about that sort of situation that might be surprising to people about all the elephants still forced to tour the country. These are like elephants often in their 50s and forced into touring and performing the assortment of circuses. So that's 10 years almost to the day since Ringling Brothers last used elephants. So we'll talk about that and what we can do about it. Meanwhile, I hope you'll join us then. 88.5 WMNF, Talking Animals, WMNF Tampa. We'll see you next week. Thanks again for listening. Thanks again to Glenn.